Hi, I'm Scott. Welcome to Synth Stuff. Today we're going to install Yamaha's new OS 2.0 in my Montage M7, and then we're going to go over and see what's new in the new OS. Coming up. The very first thing we have to do is back up the Montage. In the past, Yamaha has said, well, you should back up because there's a possibility you could lose user libraries and so on. No more. With the Montage M, when you do an OS upgrade, it will wipe everything. You will lose all your user libraries, everything, so you must back up first. So let's do that, and then once we finish that, we'll download the update and then install it. All right, so we're going to go into Utility, and we want to go to Contents, and then we're going to Save, and what we're going to save is a backup file. And we're going to save it to Montage 7, and then we will save it as a new file. We will go ahead and name it what we're going to name it. That'll work. And this will take a few minutes to do. I have quite a bit of data stored in terms of libraries and user performances, so it will take a while to do this. So that took about 4 or 5 minutes to complete. I've downloaded the update, the zip file from the Yamaha site. I will put a link to that in the description below. Inside that, there's a folder inside the zip file called Montage M200. We'll open that up, and you'll see inside you'll have a PGM file and two README files, one in English and one in Japanese. I'm just going to drag those onto a USB key that I have formatted on the Montage. The USB key needs at least 4 gigabytes free, and it will take a few minutes to copy because we are copying almost 4 gigabytes of data. This is an extremely large update, 4 gigabytes, so it's going to take quite a long time to install. I've heard reports that it takes upwards of 45 minutes, and so that's pretty much what I'm expecting. You're going to see it's going to take just 12 minutes to even just copy it to this USB key. So we'll let that go ahead and finish, and then we'll start the next step. Okay, so now that we have the update on the USB stick, I'm going to plug it into the back of the Montage M. Now remember, I've already backed this up, so because it's going to remove everything. This is connecting the USB device. Okay, now we're going to turn off the Montage M. We're going to press the Utility button and Cursor up. We're going to press both of those at the same time, hold them down, and while we're holding them down, we're going to turn on the Montage M and wait until we see the Yamaha image, and then we can let go. And you'll see it says waiting for storage and found, and it's now going to start the update process. And this is the part that takes 45-ish minutes. So what we're going to do is just time-lapse this. All right, the update has completed. It says update completed on the screen. That's how I know. So we are going to power it off, and we will take out the USB key. And then I will put in the one that has my backup on it. We're going to turn it back on. And there we are, it's up. So let's have a look at, we'll hit Utility and System. You look at the very bottom of the screen, it says Montage M Firmware version 2.004. So we know that it worked properly. So the next thing we're going to go is Utility Contents, and we're going to load a backup file. And then we are going to pick the one that we just did, 2024-06-21. And that's the one we want to do. And we'll do that load. Again, my backup file is huge because it has a lot of samples, user samples and waveforms and things in there. So it's going to take a little while to do. All right, so the restoration of the backup's completed. Just for good measure, I'm going to reboot the Montage M. I don't think it says you have to, but I seem to recall that I had problems before when I didn't reboot it, so we'll just reboot it. It's not going to hurt anything. So what's new in version 2.0 of Montage M? Well, if we go into Live Set, we can see there are 58 new performances that feature the new stuff that the Montage M has. And if we go into our Live Set and then switch to Montage 2.0. It'll show the best of 2.0, and we can see some of the new things. You can see here we have a CFX2, which is the new CFX, and they have a Shimmer Reverb, which is also new. That Shimmer Reverb is a new effect. It is a global effect, not an insert effect, mainly because that type of Shimmer Reverb takes a lot of computational power, and the SWP70 chips don't have that kind of computational power. However, the new CPU inside the Montage M does. That is also the reason why you will not be seeing the Shimmer Reverb on the Modi X Plus. Or back-ported to older Montage or Modi X. If you want to see more about the internal workings of the Montage M and understand why it does the things it does and the way it works, I have another video that talks about all the internal chips and the architecture and describes a lot of that. And I'll put a link to that in the video up here. ANX Bass Gallery. This is one of Dom Sigalis's sounds, and it changes as you change the super knob. You get a whole collection of different bass sounds. And those are all ANX sounds, obviously. I'm not going to go through 58 sounds. I'm just going to talk about a few of these in here. Now this is a Smart Morph ANX. If we go to the performance, you can see this is actually a Smart Morph sound. And you can see that dot bouncing around between the different sounds. And that is a motion sequence because the super knob is actually moving around, and the Smart Morph is actually adjusting all those parameters as it moves. And if you have a look at the little screen here, the sub monitor, which you can see at the bottom of this screen here, you can see the values are just continually changing as that little dot bounces around. You could stop that and just grab it and change it, I believe. Yeah, you can. Or we could turn off the motion control and just do it by hand. Pretty cool. Okay, so yes, okay, we've done a couple of sounds, and I don't want this whole video to be, hey, just look at the sounds it can make, because that's another video entirely. Let's talk about what's new in the version 2.0. I mentioned the new CFX. Yes, there's a new CFX piano. It's called CFX2, and it is a completely new sampled piano that Yamaha has done. I'm hearing it for the very first time, as you are. I don't know, sounds like a piano. I'm going to have to look at this a little bit more to see what it can do. There is also the CP80. The CP80 is a Yamaha piano. It's a stage grand. It's actually a grand piano that comes apart in two pieces, and it has pickups inside. And the idea is that it has a real piano, has strings and hammers and everything in it, but it has pickups as well, so that you can play it on stage. If you've ever seen Keen play on stage, they use a CP80 on the record as well as on stage. So if we have a look at the, where is the CP80? There is a CP80. CP80 for arenas. That's pretty cool. Smash CP80. Oh, that's kind of cool. I don't know, I like that Arenas one. You can really punch through a mix with that, and of course it does have that Shimmer Reverb, which of course you could get rid of if you wanted to. Interesting. So the CP80, a new sample set. We have the new CFX, the new CP80, entirely new sample sets, which means there are tons of new performances that use those new sample sets. All right, the Shimmer Reverb, which you heard before, let's go back to our live set for Best of 2.0, and let's see if there's one in here that really features that Shimmer Reverb. Yep. Oh, this is this is another one of Dom's. Strange. The Shimmer Reverb is... So if we go back to the CFX2 that has the Shimmer Reverb built into it, the Shimmer Reverb is more of a character reverb. It's not emulating a large room or anything. It's just, it has that, it actually amplifies and enhances the top end, so it creates a sound all to itself that is not part of the original sound, algorithmically. So obviously I'm playing piano here. And you are not hearing the original piano sound in that reverb. It's a shimmering version that is algorithmically derived from the piano sound. So that's your Shimmer Reverb. There is a new wave folder function in ANX. A wave folder, I'm going to explain what a wave folder does. If you look at, actually, well, let's try it. Let's do it in a init. And we are going to look for init patches and all init normal ANX. Okay, so now we have just a sawtooth. Let's change that into a sine wave. So if you look on the oscilloscope, all we see there is just a regular sine wave. There's no harmonics there. So if we try to filter it, you're not going to hear a whole lot going on with the filter if we do a filter cutoff until it gets down to the frequency of the primary or the fundamental frequency. Okay, it took me a minute to find it. So here we have our sine wave. If we go into pitch mod, and it is folder. Here we are, wave folder. And you can see what happens is it's going to boost the signal, and instead of, normally if you would boost a signal into overdrive, it's just going to give you you're going to end up with a square wave because it's just going to do clipping. But instead of clipping it, when it hits the limit of the amplitude, it's going to invert the wave back downwards. So it's easier to see than to try to explain. So if I put this on here and just start turning it on, as you can see, it's going to start inverting the wave, and it causes harmonics to occur. Wow, it almost goes into FM there. That's pretty cool. And you can adjust the velocity. So if I push it slowly, there's none. But as you hit it harder, more of it happens. What is the texture? Interesting, and you can change it from a soft to a hard. So what was a very basic sine wave with no harmonics now has some interesting harmonics in it. And then we can go into the filter and filter those. So if we go, actually, let's go back to pitch mod. We'll add some more harmonics in with the wave folder. And then we can filter those. Just another way of modifying the waveform generator and giving it some character or harmonics where there may not be. And it's just another tool in your toolbox. Okay, so Smart Morph is now available on the ANX as well. Let's go to category, init, and we want ANX. Oops, nope, I want ANX, not FMX. Okay, so here's our init normal, and we're gonna go to Smart Morph. Now, parts 9 through 16 are where you want to load some ANX sounds that you have saved already. So if we pick 9 here, and it's going to automatically list our ANX sounds that are singles, so we can go through and find ones that we want. That's a good one. Let's use that one for part 9. Part 10, let's pick something. Wow, that's loud. That's great. And then 11, what else do we want in here? Good enough. I'm put 4 in here. 4 is enough for now. Was there a classic fifth? That's good. Okay, so now we have 4 single part ANX parts loaded into this performance in 9 through 12. We could put another 4, but we'll just use 4 for now. And just like, this is exactly the way it works for FMX, except now we're doing it with ANX. Unfortunately, you can't mix the two together. You can't have one that has some FMX and some that have ANX. It's got to be one or the other. So now we're going to hit learn, and it does its magic. Now we have a sound that can be modified by just dragging around. So if we listen. Interesting. If you don't like that, hit learn again. It'll do something different. You know what? The one that I picked that had the fifth in there is interesting because obviously there's 2 oscillators that are a fifth apart, but it's adjusting the parameters between those 2 oscillator pitches, and it's going out of tune as a result. So there's our fifth, and there's our unison. So let's say we like what we've done here. We can say good, that's fine, we want that, and we'll switch over to Smart Morph here. So now that we're on our sound that has been loaded into part 1. So part 1 is our Smart Morph sound built of all the sounds in parts 9 through 12. So if we look at the sub menu or the sub screen, it's going to describe the parameters that are being used to make this sound. So if I press a key and move around, you can see it's going to change the parameters. And that's what Smart Morph is. If you have a bunch of different sounds, say you have 2 different sounds and you have sound A and sound B, it will morph and gradually change all the parameters from sound A to sound B as you move across. Now it might not do all the parameters, it sometimes picks some and not others, and it kind of does it at random, or you can adjust it. That's how you saw it. The first attempt, I'm like, oh, I didn't like that, well, let's try it again, and it'll do it a little bit different random parameters and create a new sound. And once you've got one that you like, just save it. So it's a really interesting and quick way of creating new sounds that you can play from existing sounds, and you don't have to just drag your finger on the screen. You could automate it with the super knob, so you could have the super knob move a path around your screen, or you could have the mod wheel do it, or pretty much anything else. Version 2 of the firmware also has some new user interface changes. So if we go to drawbar organs, you can see we now have graphics on the screen that show our drawbars. I suppose that's nice. I mean, it's nice to see there. Apparently there's a new element edit functionality in here. So if I go into this string here, oops, that's not what I wanted. If I go into here, edit, and if we go into the individual elements, I suppose. Apparently there's something different in here that you can do. They didn't say exactly what it was, they just said improved. I guess I haven't memorized this screen, so I don't recognize what's different, not off the top of my head, but apparently it's better. There are apparently additional category search parameters. What are those parameters? It says they've added new ones. Solo, ensemble. Synth strings. And the last thing that is new in version 2.0 is more support for MIDI 2.0. Now, their support for MIDI 2.0, I mean, MIDI 2.0 is massive, massive changes in terms of devices talking to each other to give each other to communicate and exchange their capabilities. But one of the main things that they've added to MIDI 2.0 is more than 7 bits of resolution for controllers. So instead of your mod wheel being from 0 to 127, which can cause stepping in some things because it's just not enough resolution, now it's much more resolution. I have to read this off here because there's a lot of them. So they say high resolution data. So it doesn't say how many bits. It's probably 12, maybe 16, but it's probably 12. High resolution data for note velocity, polyphonic and channel aftertouch, the super knob, pitch bend, modulation, assignable knobs and sliders, foot controllers, and sustain. So now you have high resolution data for those. So anytime you had stepping from those because of a lack of resolution or quantization, that is no longer the case because it has the high resolution MIDI 2.0 functionality. The last thing that comes with Montage 2.0 is ESP, which is the DAW plugin. I'm not going to talk about that at all in this video. That's going to be a completely different video because it is basically completely new. It's fantastic. Oops. So stay tuned for that. That video will be coming up shortly. If you have any questions or comments about this, did I get anything wrong? If you have a suggestion about something I should have talked about, please leave it in the comment section below. If you did like this video, please click like, subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out when you do that. Thanks for watching.